Welcome back to our BCBA exam prep series. This is week 11. I'm Katherine Kellogg, and we are moving right along with our BCBA exam prep series. This week, we're talking about behavioral momentum and matching law. Both of these concepts are related to teaching and ensuring that we're matching motivation and considering cost and benefit of what we're asking. Also, we make choices and decisions based on how motivated we are, based on how hard the task is, and if we feel like we have momentum to complete the task. Behavioral momentum explains why some behaviors are harder to disrupt than others. Think of it like physical momentum. A behavior with very high momentum will persist even when conditions change, while low momentum behaviors are easily disrupted. Also, with behavioral momentum, we're thinking about the likelihood and the high probability of the behavior occurring. And this also has to do with what skills are easy or tasks are easy and what skills are harder. We want to make sure we're interspersing 80% mastered tasks or things that are easy to do, high probability of it being completed before we throw in a hard task. It really makes sense when you think about it. Like if you have a kid sit down with you and you're asking all of the hard things that they don't know, or a math worksheet that they've never done with a bunch of new concepts, they're going to feel discouraged or defeated unless maybe we build in other concepts that they do get correct so that they feel like they can keep going and persist through the more challenging scenarios. Key factors that create behavioral momentum: response rate and reinforcement rate, also response effort, all contribute. Behaviors that occur frequently are reinforced consistently and require low effort. They develop high momentum or high probability. High P, you can think of or hear that maybe before. Behaviors that are infrequent or poorly reinforced or harder and have a lot of effort have low momentum. In a high probability request sequence, also called behavioral momentum intervention, you present several easy requests that the person readily complies with or can complete. These are high momentum behaviors. Then you immediately present a harder task that sometimes they might refuse or may be hard, and you might know that that's coming and facilitate more prompting to set them up for success. So you might hear a first then. That's pretty common, right? We don't want to withhold anything preferred like that, but it could be motivating to say, hey, first let's clean this up and then we can play with something else and get a new toy bin out. It's kind of like us too with our maybe daily work tasks. If we have a bunch of really hard things that are going to take a lot of time, we might feel discouraged and delay or avoid starting that. But if we start checking off our list like the snowball effect with a couple little tasks that are kind of easy, then it's going to maybe feel more motivating. It's going to maybe feel more motivating to tackle something bigger. Matching law is next. The matching law describes how organisms allocate their responses when multiple options are available. So reinforcement flows, behavior goes where the reinforcement flows. Wherever the reinforcement is more valuable in that moment is where the behavior is going to go. This means that the proportion of responses to option A equals the proportion of reinforcement obtained from option A. If A provides 60% of total reinforcers, you allocate about 60% of your responses to that. Versus if there's less reinforcement available, less responding will happen. Clinical applications are everywhere in ABA. Understanding matching law really helps us predict choice behavior and design effective interventions. We have choices constantly. Matching law is all around us. So right now, I could choose to be working and doing this, or I could choose to be watching a show. Both have different values of reinforcement. For me, this is more motivating right now, probably because of delayed reinforcement and seeing the outcome of help that these videos do and engagement, versus the other option might be an immediate reinforcer, but then there's no delayed reinforcer that's of value to me. You have a choice right now to be watching this video and potentially studying for your exam, or maybe doing something more leisure. Both have reinforcement value, but you're choosing this one because this has greater value for you in this moment. When we're designing interventions for our clients, we want to think about that. How can we create motivations that they want to engage in our replacement behaviors that we're trying to teach, or want to engage in a new activity that might be hard, or a new behavior like washing hands? What can we do to increase the motivation and think about matching law and think about behavioral momentum? If you're using differential reinforcement of alternative behavior, the matching law tells us that alternative behavior needs to produce reinforcement at a higher rate than the problem behavior. If it's easier for our client to throw a toy and get what they need, they're going to do that. But if it's harder to do that, if we set up the environment where the toy's further away, so they have to reach, and then it's easier for them to just hand us a picture of what they want, they're going to do it. So if we think about that with response effort, making the replacement behaviors easy and accessible and reinforcing, that's what they're going to engage in. Creating environments where appropriate behaviors access reinforcement frequently and easier. It shifts the matching equation in favor of appropriate behavior. For exam strategies, for behavioral momentum intervention, start with about 3 to 5 high probability requests and then deliver them rapidly within 10 seconds, provide reinforcement, and then immediately present a low probability request. When we troubleshoot the momentum intervention, if it's not working, check your high P requests. If they're truly high P, it's about 80% or higher. If you're delivering them fast enough and there's reinforcement, ensure low P requests immediately follow the sequence. For matching law, always assess the reinforcement schedules for both appropriate and inappropriate behaviors. Exam tip for momentum. Look for scenarios involving compliance training, demand fading, or resistance to change. High momentum behaviors resist disruption. Low momentum behaviors are easily disrupted. Another exam tip for matching law, look for choice scenarios, concurrent schedules. The matching law is to concurrent schedules of reinforcement. 2 or more options, 2 or more behaviors. Or questions about why problem behavior persists despite reinforcement of appropriate behavior. The answer usually involves the relative rates of reinforcement. Problem behavior is simply more profitable. Both concepts emphasize that behavior occurs in context. Momentum depends on reinforcement history. Matching depends on available alternatives. You can't understand behavior in isolation from its environmental context. A student completes math worksheets about 20% of the time when asked directly. The student implements a procedure. A student completes math worksheets about 20% of the time when asked directly. The teacher implements a procedure where she first asks the students to hand her a pencil, point to the board, and stand up, which he does reliably. Then immediately ask him to complete the math worksheet. His completion rate increased to 80%. This intervention is based on what? The answer is behavioral momentum. The teacher used high probability requests to build momentum and then immediately presented the low probability request. It's not a choice between alternatives, so it's not matching law, and there's no differential reinforcement goal. That wraps up behavioral momentum and matching law. Comment below any other questions that you might have, or if you want any more scenarios. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on the recent video posts. See you next time.